Hey y'all, it's your girl Sia, and I'm back with another video. First things first, thank you guys for tuning in. I wanted to talk about the migrant crisis, right? And what I've noticed, and let me be clear on some things, right? This channel, just so you guys know, is going to be very direct. It may not be everyone's preference in terms of what I say and how I speak, but I do feel like what I say has to get out there, and I am a person who has no problem holding everyone accountable for what it is that they do. Okay. Um, Here's the deal, and this is just my personal opinion. I feel as though the migrant crisis affects people who do not have a skill set. And what we're seeing by this mindset of, oh, there's a migrant crisis, right? I genuinely believe that those people that are being impacted and affected by the migrants that have come to this country um, lack a level of skill set that is required to be able to move to the next level in this age that we live in. I don't know if you guys are aware, but in 2020, that was the time to truly sit down, focus on oneself, and better oneself, because most people had the time, whether or not you were uh someone before 2020 or not, like, and I'm not saying that you're not someone, I'm just saying in terms of skill sets, right? Because one thing we learn, and I'll tell you guys this, my first year in college, I was taught about human capital and what that is and what it looks like and how it determines your position in this everyday matrix and reality that we live in. I know a lot of people's mindset is, well, I don't even want to play the game. I don't even want to be a part of the matrix. The reality of it is, though, all of our actions, for the most part, it is displays a matrix type of mentality and a matrix type of way of living. Okay. Yeah, my curls. Listen, I really like my hair, but I don't know how to like get my curls. Be like, man. Anywho, long story short, um, it's driving me nuts. I don't know how to style curls at all, and I got a head full of them. I don't know what to do. Okay, so I'm working on that part. Anywho, but I like my hair, believe it or not, I really do. Anywho, it's a lot of people out here that go about their daily life every single day, and they do not think about how education and how having skill sets actually raise their value, right? And what I mean by this is not just in the workplace, it also occurs when you're owning your own business, and when you're kind of running your own ship, right? Where business owners typically, when they are successful, they have a skill set, and they may learn through trial and error, right? But over time, business owners develop a lot of skills that the average person may or may not develop. Okay. So I want you guys to understand that the skill set terminology applies not just to the workforce, but also to the entrepreneurs who are out there and really doing their thing, right? And I say entrepreneurs, I want you guys to understand something. I'm not here to play games and feed BS, right? And so from that, I do not mean people who sign up their business and they do absolutely nothing with it. They do not try. They just do it for the sake of saying, I own a business, right? Because there's a lot of those people. Um, in this reality that we live in, right? When it comes to your value, right? And not what God values you as or what you see yourself. I'm talking about how the matrix views you is the more the skill set is the most valuable, right? So that trumps your race, your age, um your height, I mean whatever you can think of, your weight, right? Your looks, all of that, right? It trumps all of that. Your skill set is what is needed to be able to compete in today's society, right? Because we can argue about right and wrong. The reality of the circumstances, we currently live in a global economy, right? It's not announced, but it is what it is, right? You have people from other countries that are able to take on positions in the United States, right? And so now you have competition amongst the entire world, not just America. And so it is very imperative that people understand that your education and developing a skill set is everything. Okay. That is what's going to carry you forward. Not this nonsense that we've been doing for God knows how long, that does not display excellency of any kind, right? This is why our country, in a way, is declining because you have so many people that are all just okay with existing, but those same people are the ones who complain about where they're at in life in this quote unquote system, right? Right, weighing them down, but they're not doing anything to get out of those positions, right? They're not doing the work. They say, oh, well, it's hard and it's hard. And I'll be real, this is hard. Life is hard, especially when you're initially starting off, when you're wanting to change your life, when you're building your life, when you're figuring out what you want in life. Like all of these things can be very difficult, right? um Taking control of your life, they're not easy things to do. However, in order for you to be somewhat okay, right? In this day and age, you have to have value. You have to have a level of economic value. That's what we're talking about. Okay. So 2020, for those who were paying attention, that was the year to sit down, study, regroup, right? Figure out what direction you really want to go in, take a chance on that new business, right? Go get that certification, go get that apprenticeship. Like 2020 was the year to really figure it out. And if you guys notice, we're already in 22 and 2020 felt like it just happened. So, with that said, it's not that we're running out of time, but time is moving so fast that I could only imagine what it would feel like if I was working a 9 to 5 hourly job, right? I do work a 9 to 5, guys. But it's not hourly. So it does come with a different level of perks than a job that I'm slaving away for hours upon hours. Because I'm sure when these folks get home, they're tired, right? I'm tired too because I use a lot of my brain power, but I have enough time to take care of the things that I need to take care of, right? If I was working an hourly and I did not secure or level up or invest in my education or my skill sets, okay, I feel as though I would be so busy with work that I would not have the time or the mental capacity to even come home and want to secure a skill set. So shout out to those who do, right? Because people do it all the time. That's no excuse, right? Even though I work a 9 to 5, I'm still in school. I've done my best to maintain good grades. Let me be clear. I do taxes for a living. So if you guys can imagine, I have a really, really busy season and a really, really non-busy season. Okay. And so because we do businesses as well, my tax season has pretty much lasted me until October. Okay. So I'm doing all of these things despite having a job because, excuse me, investing in me is worth it. I'm studying for my EA. It's not been an easy process because I've been really, really busy. But overall, I enjoy and I work hard to ensure that I'm continuing my education. So even if you're working an hourly job, again, for me, I don't know how I would have done it because I've been there, right? It's not too far from there. And knowing what that level of work looks like, while I can handle it, right? I just don't know how much I would have been able to give to what it is that I'm striving to do now. Okay. So investing in your education in 2020 was a very big thing, no matter how that looked. And it's very important people understand that your job, not really your job, but if you're complaining about certain things, you have to understand where you're getting in your own way. You have to begin to start seeing things for what they are. Now, with that being said, the reason why this title is labeled "Let's Talk the Migrant Crisis," this will not be the only video I do on this because I keep finding this topic to be very prevalent. And something I realize is I don't know that I've run into any migrants. Okay. I live in a state where there are a ton of migrants moving here, apparently. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of these migrants are starting from the very, very bottom. And I can't help but to take into account that I've never actually, I mean, probably like if at the store at a 7-Eleven or something like that, but I don't, off the top of my head, I cannot say that I've seen a migrant. I cannot say that I've seen a migrant shelter. I cannot say that I've seen anything that relates remotely to a migrant at all. At all. And I think some of that is because depending on where you're at, right? Certain things are more prevalent in your reality or more real in your reality than others. So your experience is not necessarily my experience, right? And I genuinely believe a lot of that has to do with the different class levels. If you're someone that's at the bottom, and there's nothing wrong with being at the bottom, I want to be clear, right? Because I've been there, right? I've gone through things, right? I've gone through life, but I've always wanted better for myself, right? I never wanted to stay stuck in the same place that I was a year ago. So that's just me. However, we have to acknowledge that there is a bottom. And there are people who are okay with being mediocre and being at the freaking bottom. And you have a lot of that in the United States, a lot more than what we understand. When I have people, let me tell you guys something, and even with me too, this wasn't like I said, I didn't get to where I'm at overnight. And I'm not even where I really want to be. Not yet. I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet. I'm grateful for what I have, but I know I can do better, right? I know I deserve more, well, better. So I want folks to understand something. You've got a choice in this, and your choice is you can either get with it or get lost. This is the type of times that we're in. If you guys think that everything that we're seeing, right, does not play a part in the types of times that we're in, you got to be out of your mind. And if you think that you can continue to live life at this mediocre level, baby, you're not going to be able to get very far. We're at a time period where the earth is essentially cleansing itself of all things that do not adhere to nature. So if you're not elevating yourself, right? If you're not leveling up, if you're not working on bettering yourself, the universe is going to give you everything that you are subscribing to. So meaning that if you're subscribing to things that are technically beneath you, you're gonna get that. It wouldn't matter if it wouldn't matter. So it is you know, my recommendation. I'm nobody, right? But I'm somebody to me. Okay. It is my recommendation that we really begin to understand that we have more control over our reality than what we understand, if that makes sense. And yes, when we're talking about the migrant crisis, let me be clear. I don't see why we're helping people that do not live here when we've got a ton of problems that need to be resolved right here. I'm not understanding why we're giving thousands of millions of dollars to countries that have no real stake in my everyday well-being. I'm not getting it, right? I'm not understanding how you have so many homeless people. I have been watching videos on YouTube like the worst hoods ever, right? Just trying to get a feel for other parts of life, right? And seeing how some of these folks live. Now, what I will say is, I don't believe that just because you give somebody something that they'll value it and appreciate it. However, I do believe that we've got our own problems right here in our backyard that we could be solving. And it's problematic when you have a house divided that is more focused on giving to other houses than building up its own. This is intentional, what we're seeing happen. Okay, it is. It's very intentional what we're seeing happening. Um, One, you have the Democrats who have lost a lot of support. Okay. So they need people that they can save, and those people for about a year or two will vote Democrat until they realize they've been voting wrong, and then they'll eventually vote Republican. That's usually how that works. More migrants, I guarantee you, a lot of these people will end up voting Republican in about 3 or 4 years. Okay. But while they're still brainwashed by the Democrats who supposedly saved them, now we're going to vote for Democrats. These people are bodies to fill what blacks cannot. And now their agendas are going to become more prevalent in the Democratic Party, pushing black people further and further and further to the bottom. But it's also a choice. See, we went back to this because we can choose to be better than, or we can choose to stay stuck. And when you're choosing to stay at the bottom, you know, that's a choice. So you have this political game that's going on at the same time, right? Where you have the American culture, quote unquote, of greatness just kind of dissipating, right? Morals and values are going out the window, right? Nobody knows how to treat anybody with decency and respect. We don't want to read books. We don't want to be thinkers. We want to be on TikTok and Instagram and OnlyFans, right? Instead of using our minds to create, to build, right? It's not enough that you work for the person that made the apartment building. Why not be the person that made the apartment building, right? It's not enough that you work at the cashier. Why not be the person that started the supermarket? Like, this is where America has fallen because nobody is creating, nobody is thinking. We're just going along with what they tell us. And then we wonder why we've got migrants coming in, even though we've been here our whole life. We wonder why we've got migrants coming in who are willing to work. They're willing to work for cheap. They're not complaining about, oh, I should be making $20 an hour and I'm only making 12 at a goddamn mall, right? Because let's be clear, if you're 40 something years old, if you're 35 and you working at the fucking mall, if you're not a fucking manager or somebody, I'm not getting it. I'm not understanding how the math ain't math. I mean, it's not mathing. So we've got to understand something. You're not just in competition. Black people, you don't get a pass just because you're black. You're a part of this matrix just as much as you don't want to be. The reality of the circumstances, are you willing to play the game to get to where you gotta go, or are you just gonna sit and suffer and just be complaining? Because there's no room for that here anymore. Because while you complaining, motherfuckers is eating. You can bet your bottom dollar that just as much as there is a poor class, there is a rich class. Just like you may be experiencing a ton of nonsense, somebody else is experiencing a bunch of wealth and bliss and abundance. So ultimately, it's on us. The migrant crisis only affects you if you're in the places that you probably shouldn't be. Your reality is only going to give you what you're opening your mind to. So if all you know is poverty, dust, struggle, then that's all you're going to see. That's all you're going to get unless you're willing to put in the effort to make some things happen, to turn your lemon into lemonade. Okay? This is why some people are struggling. I'm not saying the migrant crisis ain't bad, because in my personal opinion, it's very bad, right? I don't subscribe to allowing people that are illegal. I'm not understanding how they play in this game. These folks are sleeping outside in the snow. I'm not, no, they need to be all sent back. That's just my personal thoughts on that. However, it says a lot about somebody who can travel distances to come to this country, build themselves and make it. And the excuse is, well, I'm black and they be, the system be trying to oppress me. Yeah, as a black person, you're going to face struggles, of course. You're going to face adversity just like anybody else would. But again, it's your job to overcome that shit. If you say that I want wealth and I want success, and I'm not talking about in no fast, cheap, and easy way, right? I'm talking about really doing something with your life and making an impact that is worth making. Then you have to understand that when you have a skill set, your skin color don't matter. Yeah, it may matter to some, but the door is going to open. Your skill set's going to work for you with this amount of information you research or whatever investment you do. So like if I put I did not say that right. If I invest into my business, right? Investing looks like time, Looks like money. It's not always money, time, money, right? Effort. You can bet your bottom dollar that shit's going to come back to me. Basically, I'm going to get back as much effort as I choose to put in. So when you have a business, right, it's very imperative that you understand, and that's with anything in life, is you're going to get back as much as you put in. It's that simple. So if you're thinking, okay, well, I work an hourly 9 to 5, right? And you know that that job is not as paying you as much as you feel like you're worth. It's your job to show you're worthy of that income. And that's where a lot of people fall short. And so when you're dealing with these folks, these migrants or whatever, and you're seeing them, right? And you're openly in these spaces where you're interacting with these people, you're, having interactions with these people. I mean, I don't know what else to say. At that point, you have to ask yourself why. You've got to ask yourself why, because you're in control of your reality. So if you're seeing things in your everyday reality that you're not really expecting to see, so I'm gonna be honest. I think that again, you're dealing with a level of I want to say you're dealing with a level of deceitfulness, right? You're dealing with a level of politics. That's always, right? But as black and brown people, especially black people, we say that we don't, I mean, it's weird because I don't know what black people are fighting for sometimes. This is just the honest to God truth. We talk about how blacks are going to be what, second class citizens in the United States. This is our conversation, right? Where we're complaining about it. We say it's the white man, it's oppression. The black people that are not necessarily and will never be classified, because there are quite a few, irregardless of the skin color, because you're dealing with class, right? Who are not necessarily second class citizens in this state. Not a lot, but you're dealing with a few. But we turn around and we call them Uncle Toms and we say they sold out. Now, it's weird because we pick and choose when we want to label people as sellouts. But the person that worked their ass off to make the amount of money that they did, most people don't even know. It's like if you're not really with the person, right? You don't know if they cheated to get where they at or if they actually worked their ass off. But we assume because you're black and you're successful, not we, y'all. I'm definitely excluding myself from that. We assume that because they're successful, that they're sellouts, they're these types of people that don't give a fuck about black people, right? But we complain about being second class citizens, right? Not having enough in this country. But then when it comes down to putting in the work to do the work, we would much rather blame everybody else for why we're not where we need to be. And I'm saying we because I'm black, but not because I actually subscribe to this shit, right? But I did at one point because it's a poverty mentality. We blame everybody else for why we can't get ahead. And I'm just confused. Okay, I'm really confused. Because I'm gonna be real. If I'm complaining about something, I'm gonna do something to fix it. So this migrant crisis that we say that we have, which we do, right? It's a political game. But it's like, if you know it's a game, you should understand how to play the game. And I'm not going to allow someone to come into my house and take my spot because I earned this shit. You see what I'm saying? So the migrant crisis, in my opinion, is really only affecting people who are at that level. And you can complain about it. It sucks. Do I agree with it? Hell no. But then it's our job again. You can complain about it, but what are you going to do in order to beat it? Because it's not marching, it's not complaining. That really has not been helping Black people. It's not been helping us. So I'm not, I don't want to take this and act like the migrant crisis. I think it's only really a crisis to people who, again, you're complaining about. Let me tell you something, because I have to look at it from both sides. And that's only because I understand both sides. When I was poor, I could not imagine paying $1,200, $1,500 for some rent. And there was no way in hell, if you gave me $1,200, $1,500, that I would even pay it. I would have took that $1,200, and especially if it was free, right? Especially, let me be clear, when I was poor, a lot of things were free. So I did not appreciate them as much. I did not value them as much, right? So you give me $1,200, $1,500, I may not choose to pay the rent, and I may justify that because I'm like, nah, it's too hard out here. There's no reason why this rent is so high, right? I'm struggling. I got bills to pay. I got mouths to feed, right? Okay, cool. But now that I make a certain amount, my mindset is more, well, I got to make sure I have the roof over my head so I can continue doing what I'm doing. So the rent's always going to be paid. You see what I'm saying? It's a different mindset when you're poor versus when you have a little bit of something. And you only really get, I mean, you can gain it by, doing things that you probably shouldn't be doing. And that comes with consequences. Or you can do it by gaining a skill set. You can change your life by gaining a skill set that is going to be able to push you forward in these new times that we're in. Those who have skill sets, let me tell you, I promise you, there are not a whole lot of people complaining. And this is where you're seeing such a discrepancy in lifestyles, because there are people with skill sets that are making it. And again, I've said at the beginning of this video, it does not matter what that skill set looks like to some degree, right? I don't believe in selling your soul, but if that's your choice, right? That's not for me to, say. But when you develop a skill set, all the extra bullshit for the most part falls to the wayside. And when you have a skill set, guaranteed you're making enough, as long as it's a skill set that's going to make you enough. Because again, some skill sets, the times are changing. As times change, people need to evolve. It is what it is. But if you got a skill set, let's say, for example, technology, you're always going to be good. It wouldn't matter if you're black, white, purple, pink, blue, fat, skinny. That shit wouldn't even matter. You got a fucking skill set that is in high demand. People are going to take you no matter what. And you're going to get paid no matter what. No matter where you go, you're going to be all right. You see? And guaranteed somebody in tech is not dealing with no migrants unless they donating. Let's keep it 100. But when you're working at, again, and I'll take it back, you're 40 something years old and you're working at Rainbow, you didn't have high expectations for yourself. So why would you expect anybody else to? It's funny because I'm gonna just go off real quick, but well, not go off, I meant on a tangent. I was watching these YouTube videos of where these white boys be in these hoods, right? And the way these white boys, they do these videos, right? And in the comments, you got people like, oh, it breaks my heart to see this. And some of that shit is crazy. I can't believe people live in shit like that, but that's a whole nother conversation. He's going through this hood, and the whole time it's like, I don't know if he's trying to be sentimental about the hood, or if he's just talking about the fact that these people, because how they talk about them is like, they're like, oh, they don't have any skill sets, they're poor, and obviously they don't want better for themselves. And when I'm watching the videos, I'm sitting there like, oh my God, I can't believe people live in this. Because again, I clearly ain't seen no hoods for real, for real. And I'm looking at this shit and I don't know what to think. And the white boy is just like, well, yeah, they clearly, he goes into how, well, it sucks, this way of life is sad and all these things. Like, he has empathy, but then he goes into, well, yeah, these people clearly didn't want better for themselves. And that and they say they do that throughout the whole video, which tells me that the white boys really don't give a fuck. They're like, you did it to yourself, but I'm showing the world what this shit looks like, right? And in my head, it's hard because you can tell when you've crossed over a little bit, because in your mind, you start to see it from that point of view, because you know what it took to get from that spot to where you at now. So when I share these videos, and I'm going to do more and more videos of more people that keep complaining about this, again, it sucks, but this is what people voted for. The migrant crisis is what people voted for. This is what people said yay to. They told you this is what they were going to do. They said it, and people still voted for these motherfuckers. Okay? Trump built a wall, and you guys are like, oh, he's a bad guy. They've been telling you this is what they wanted to do, is bring other people in, a new world order. Isn't that what they call it? Hello? So I don't have a lot of sympathy for poor people who complain about the predicament that they're now in, but refuse to do anything different to get out of that situation. Because I'm not even wealthy, you guys. I'm not even close to it. I will be one day. That's in my dream and in my brain, right? But I'm not close to it yet. And in my mind, I'm like, there's no way, because I be seeing the migrant stuff on the news, and I'm like, how come? Like, I don't even know where the tents are for these people. I don't drive past these tents to see these people, let alone like having issues with them taking over my food stamps and shit. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's a portion of the population that is dealing with shit because they choose to stay in the predicaments that they're in, when you have the other portion of the population, no matter where they're at and on the totem pole, they're thriving, they're elevating, right? It's the tale of the two cities. And eventually you're going to have it to where these folks are like, there's a clear split of wealthy versus poor. That's it. So I'm telling you guys now, the opportunity for you to do this was in 2020. But if you did not hear my message, the goal is to get a skill set. Go enlist in school. Like, all these ideologies about school, you don't need school. Well, those who can't afford $1,500 worth of rent, I mean, I'm just saying, how do you think these people are affording that rent? Do you really think that all these white people are just rich? Like, some of them are. Don't don't get it twisted. But a lot of these people have skill sets. They have degrees. They have things that keep them in business. They're not getting degrees in English and stuff that is not like, you don't go to school to get a degree that you can't pay back with the degree. That don't even make sense. But you have people getting into accounting, right? Me, right? Finance, which I mean, depending on how you use your finance degree, can and cannot make you some money. You got people going into tech, right? Doctors, lawyers, scientists. You got blue collar fields that people are needed all day long, electricians, all types of people. That even in 20 years from now, they're still going to be needed regardless of AI, regardless of automation. So this is where people have to, it's like, again, I get the frustration, I get the complaint, I get that we feel that the migrants are taking over jobs and stuff like that. Like, I get it. right? But maybe it's because as an American, you should be above working at McDonald's at 50 years old. You should be in a whole nother spot, and perhaps that is how people are looking at it. You should not still be working at McDonald's. Again, I get making ends meet, but if you had a skill set, you wouldn't have to do all that. Not in no McDonald's should be if you're 16, 15, 14, 17, 18, like those are the ages that should be working. College students. I mean, whatever. But not no 50-year-old woman. No. Unless that's all she can do. But I'm just saying, if you could work at McDonald's at 50, you could damn sure do a whole lot more. And I think this is where the spiritual realm is kind of pushing us to understand there's no more time for bullshit. There's no more time for mediocrity. There's no more time for being this sitting duck that does absolutely nothing. This is where we're at. And it sucks. Like people can complain, but that's just where we're at. You either adapt, you either evolve, or you devolve. And, we see what's happening there too. We live in the age of death. I want to be very clear. So, all of these things that we're seeing take place that are just like so wow to us. Listen, if you don't think the earth is cleansing itself, it is. And while certain things suck, while having to pay $1,500 for some rent sucks, understand that there is a solution to that. Even if it doesn't seem fair, life ain't fair. But your job as a human is to ensure, like, I would assume, this is just my personal opinion, I don't give a damn what they throw at me. I don't never want to be blindsided again, because I was definitely blindsided by the increase of rent, right? But I was determined to figure it out. I was determined to, I'm gonna tell you guys now, my motto is, well, if my expenses increase, I just need to make more money. That's that's really how I see it. Or decrease my expenses, right? So it's a little more simple to me now than it was when I was poor. So I understand it's not easy, but I promise you guys, if you guys invest in yourselves, you invest in a skill set, you generate multiple revenues of income, because I don't just work a 9 to 5, right? I have my own business and I've had prior to working the 9 to 5, right? I've got a lot of irons in the fire, and I refuse to allow any external circumstances, right, mess up what I got going on. So I want to be very clear. Yes, the migrant crisis, I think it's more of a crisis because people are not prepared. It wouldn't be a crisis if you were prepared. So I do feel like that is a sign that people need to get off of whatever, we need to be working towards elevating, right? Getting out of the bottom. Because that's where these migrants are really starting. It's not like they're at the top already, like they living in a penthouse somewhere. These folks are homeless. They're out in the snow in tents. To me, that's the bottom. So if that's who you're running into and you sick of running into these folks, then maybe, I'm just saying. So that's all I got to say for now, you guys. I want to wish you guys a wonderful evening. Thank you guys for tuning in. With that being said, I'm out. Peace.